Good afternoon from Los Angeles, California. I'm Dr. Ryan Ava. What we are witnessing now in Iran is a moment that the younger generation, including teenagers and people in their early 20s, pouring out to the streets of the country and decisively raising their voice and shouting out death to the dictator. A few days ago, as I was covering the news in Iran, I referred to the recent events in the country as a possible tipping point. Today, I can tell you with a great degree of certainty that we are at that tipping point. As the brave Iranian people march on the streets demanding the end of the Islamic Republic regime. As some of you may recall, in 2009 Iranian elections, when the regime fraudulently elected Mahmoud Ahmadinejad as the president of the country, Iranian people began a movement which later was named as the Green Movement. It remained as a movement because people were asking the government to give them their votes back, as they had hoped for a more moderate reforms within the system. Today, people of Iran have woken up and realized that a dictatorship is a dictatorship. There is no reformist within the regime, and they were just wolves dressed in disguise as sheep. Therefore, and rightly so, they gave up on the possibility of reform and now demand a regime change. It took nearly 14 years and the help of two younger generations, individuals who were merely teenagers back then, and the ones that were just born or only a few years old.
Fatima Shams took part in the anti-government protests of 2009 before having to flee Iran for the United States. She now teaches Persian literature at the University of Pennsylvania, and she's following the current protests closely on social media, and she says the movement is already changing politics in Iran. Fatima Shams, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Christian, for having me.
Can I start by asking you to respond to that young student who said, "We are not the previous generation, we will not turn back"? You are the previous generation. I actually watched your protests on the ground in Iran and saw them crushed by the regime. Do you think it'll be any different this time?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is a turning point, and precisely that's the reason, because we see a generational change and a fundamental shift in the norms and values of this generation. I was born in 1980s, and those of us who protested in 2009, we still had hope in electoral reform and in the structural reform in the Islamic Republic. Our slogan was very clear. رأی مرا پس بده, or give my vote back. But what we see today is, we see that the women and the women's right is taking the center stage in these protests, and that most of the protesters in the streets, in fact, belong to the generation that was born in 2000s onward. And a lot of teen protesters that over the past 3 weeks have been shot in the streets are 16, 17-year-olds. And I think this is a very clear and obvious change in and shift in, the future politics of the Iranian society, as well as the generational shift in the fundamental norms and values.
To support my work, please click the subscribe, the like button, and the notification bell so you wouldn't miss any of my new videos.